President Trump is tired of hearing about how much things are costing you.
So I don't want to hear about the affordability, because right now we're much less. If you look at energy, we're getting close to $2 a gallon gasoline. With Biden, it was $4.50, $5. Another thing, inflation. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Now we have virtually no inflation at all. It's down at a very low number and a very normal number.
That was Trump just last night. Now, you can feel any way you want about what the president just said. As always, I do not report on feelings in this video. I'm going to get into the actual facts and the numbers when it comes to what he's talking about, gasoline and inflation. But before I do that, I just want to take you back a few years. Do you remember when inflation was really high? And I was reporting on it here on my page every single month. But President Biden and his entire administration would say up and over again that inflation was transitory. And then when the inflation numbers did actually start to come down, the Biden administration kept saying, see, the economy is getting better. But you called bullshit. You said over and over that the cost of living was too high. I know, because you were telling it to me in my comment section too. And that was happening because you were feeling the long-term effects of inflation. You were seeing it in your grocery prices and your gas prices. And because of that disconnect between what you were saying very loudly about the very real cost of living and what the Biden administration was trying to convince you of based on the numbers, what happened during the 2024 election? In the end, Democrats lost the House, the Senate, and the White House. Now, I just wanted to remind you of that episode because just like what happened with President Biden, what President Trump is saying now is not connecting to what you are saying about this economy and the cost of living and prices being too high. Okay, so now let's get into the actual numbers. You heard Trump say gas prices are getting close to $2 a gallon. According to AAA, as of yesterday, the average price for a gallon of regular gas in this country was $3.08. That is only 3 cents cheaper than it was a year ago. And diesel, that's sitting at $3.71 a gallon, which is 14 cents higher than it was a year ago. So none of that is anywhere close to $2 a gallon. But in the state of Mississippi, the average cost for a gallon of regular is $2.61. That is the closest to $2 a gallon I could find. But it's still 61 cents above $2. Now, let's talk about inflation. Trump keeps saying that we had the worst inflation, and now we have virtually no inflation. Well, he's partially right. Coming out of the pandemic in June of 2022, we saw inflation spike to 9.1%. That was bad. But was it the worst we've ever seen in the history of our country? No. We've had several periods of higher inflation. For example, in the late 1970s and early 80s, inflation peaked at 14%. Just ask your parents and grandparents about it. They'll tell you. Now, let's talk about this other claim that President Trump keeps making. He keeps saying we have virtually no inflation. And your groceries and energy bills, he says, those are great. It's the press who's lying to you about it.
Our energy costs are way down. Our groceries are way down. Everything is way down. And the press doesn't report it. The press reports whatever the con people say. You know, I call the Democrats con men and women. They make up numbers.
Okay, so let's start with overall inflation, and then I'll talk about grocery prices and energy prices specifically. As I've been reporting every single month for years, the U.S. government releases a report on inflation every month. Coincidentally, Trump's own Bureau of Labor Statistics said in the month of September, which is the most recent report we have, inflation increased 3% when compared to September of 2024. It also increased between August and September of this year. The Federal Reserve wants inflation to be increasing at no more than 2% every year. So the fact, according to Trump's own government, is generally inflation is going up, not down, and it is not virtually gone. It's very much still around. Now, let's talk about grocery prices. According to that same September CPI report, the price you are paying for every single item at the grocery store was 2.7% more than it was in September of 2024. And if you can afford to go out to a restaurant and eat, the report found in the month of September, that would have cost you 3.7% more than it did in September of 2024. So grocery prices and food prices are up well above the 2% Federal Reserve target. Last, let's talk about energy, and that's a doozy. Now, I already told you about gas prices, but energy isn't just about gasoline. The same September CPI report found electricity is up more than 5% year over year, and natural gas is up almost 12% between September of this year and September of last year. Trump said none of that's a problem, but the only problem he does see is with Republicans who are not telling you how great Trump's economy is.
So the affordability is much better with the Republicans. The only problem is the Republicans don't talk about it. And Republicans should start talking about it and use their heads, because we have great numbers. We have great, and they're going to only get better.